Let's determine where we want the center of our hole to be and mark it on the front of the box. The router bit we'll be using will be a 1/4 inch single flute bit. We must now build a jig for cutting holes in our fronts if this box is one we will be duplicating frequently. To cut our circular hole for the subwoofer and build a jig for future use, let's take our front piece and lay it over a 3/4 inch piece of MDF. This piece will become our jig. Next, take small 1/2 inch strips of wood and staple them around the front piece, securing it in place. It is important to keep the strips the same thickness as your work so that the router can pass cleanly. These little 1/2 inch strips do wonders in holding your work in place, and the beauty of this jig is that it's a perfect fit every time this particular vehicle comes in for one of your popular rounded enclosures. Now screw the circle jig to your front piece with a screw long enough to go through the piece below. This will ensure a perfectly round hole once the center of the front piece is fully cut through. Now let's countersink our hole using the rabbiting bit. The purpose for the countersink is to allow the woofer a flush fit to the front of the enclosure. It's a fairly simple procedure. This is a close-up of the rabbiting bit, and as you can see, it has a bearing on it which ensures a perfect countersink every time. Once installed, simply adjust the depth in which you would like to cut and let your router do the work. Here's the way a speaker should fit that has been properly countersunk. What we want to do here is flip the jig over with the box front still in place. Next, clamp your work down securely. Drill a hole in your jig large enough for your router bit to fit through. The last step we must complete with our box front and jig is to transfer the hole from the box front to the jig so that in future applications our boxes will be built quickly and consistently. Here is a close-up of the bit we will be using for this cut. It is a 1/2 inch flute trim bit. Note the bearing. This is what follows the shape, making all sorts of duplications possible in a fraction of the time it takes to trace and cut with a jigsaw. Now adjust the depth of your router so that the bearing on the flush trim bit will ride along the edge of the hole previously routed in the front. Now router your hole. And now you have a jig to duplicate the front of your box for a specific pickup. To transfer the hole to the right or left side of your box, simply load it into your jig front side down for one side and front side up for the other. This will create a mirror image. Now that we've cut all our holes, let's move on to the assembly of our enclosure. We'll start with the sides, front and bottom. First, we'll take our wood glue and attach the bottom to our sides with the brad nailer. Be sure to get the flushest fit possible to avoid uneven fits and unneeded sanding and filling later on. Also, make sure the mitered edge on the bottom lines up with the pitch on the side piece. Next, we'll fill our curves with wood glue. Keep it a few inches from the edge.